Hardware is my favorite thing to cover. Hello YouTubers, this is the noobifier. Along with the release of the brand new Alpha Grip, Virpil is also releasing an update to the MT50 CM2. From the outside, the CM3 appears to be a very minor change. It is, however, a set of several small changes that come together to update an already great product. Let me show you and tell you why they were changed. By illustrating some use cases where this new gimbal outperforms others, I will help you decide if this is an important upgrade for you, or perhaps what you already have is already what you need and you can sit this update out. Comments posted in past videos often ask why I tend to review only high-end controller gear, and to those who asked, there's very good news for you. I'm always growing and I'm going to be updating my joystick fight video for 2022, including very entry-level budget all the way to super boutique. Subscribe so you're the first to know when that new content is uploaded. Welcome to my hands-on review, overview, and impressions of CM3 gimbal from Virpil. I will begin with a very quick rundown of how we got here. The MT50 gimbal was where it all began for Virpil. It was physically large, very precise, very durable, and a pleasure to use compared to other offerings at the time. MT50 offered great torque with solid construction, tuning with a choice of cams and springs. WarBRD gimbal was next, Virpil's second gimbal, which released at the same time as the Delta grips in 2018. They are still available and offer a simple compact design that can be surface mounted on top of a desk. The WarBRD is actually preferred by many because of their design, including a symmetrical double cam. Double symmetrical cams are the only true way to ensure perfectly mirrored proportional force. This double symmetrical cam design has a drawback, and that it can be torque limited. It outperforms by delivering the very best light to medium resistance experience. It struggles to operate when tuned for very large torque. As I said in the gimbal comparison video, if you use extensions or prefer that very strong spring, the WarBRD gimbal, despite being great, may not be great for you. Many still do install very strong springs on WarBRD and get the performance they want. However, after the launch, the community feedback was asking for another option. The community wanted a gimbal that was designed for extensions. The CM2 was designed to address this, and it replaced the original MT50. The CM2 was built shorter than MT50 by flipping the cam 180 degrees. It also included a finely adjustable preload and a removable wire. With those two choices, you may now wonder why we need CM3, and this all comes back to community feedback. I took the opportunity to have a real Air Force pilot test CM3 as a cyclic on a motion platform in the video Real Pilot Fake Helicopter. The video gives us so much insight into how our gear stacks up, and that's linked up for you right now. No review video would be complete without an unboxing experience. Items from Virpil are packed in high-density foam, double boxed, and then those boxes are boxed together for shipping. Nothing shipped should ever arrive with dings or damage. The gimbals include some extras. There is an updated design on that USB wire with the familiar disconnect. It's very important to note that this is not the same plug as any other Virpil device. This plug only has 4 leads, not 5. And it would be great if Virpil decided to offer wires in various lengths on the web store. Some of us might like to just buy a spare, and some of us might like to permanently manage cables in several configurations. This is what I've done on my setup, allowing me to unplug and swap hardware to where I need it. This change to CM3, however, does leave the auxiliary port as the usual 5-pin, and this will actually reduce the confusion when connecting devices together. There's a piece of paper with a QR code that when scanned will take you to the manual. You have Allen wrenches, cams, and springs. I'm going to say that if you're in the market for gear in this price range, it is expected and normal for the user to service and tune. You should therefore expect to spend time taking it apart to test springs and cams. This ships assembled with medium springs and soft center cams. It will work perfectly fine out of the box plug and play, but you can get a much more personal experience if you're willing to put that extra time into it. It is designed to be opened and adjusted, so there's absolutely no reason to be concerned. Unlike CM2, the CM3 mounts exactly like the WarBRD gimbal, using the bottom with the same 4 bolts that you would use to open for servicing. This harmonizes our mounting solutions, so if you're planning to upgrade from WarBRD to CM3, you will not need to change your mounts. There are a total of 3 springs rated light, standard, and heavy. The gimbal has a very fine threaded adjustable spring preload per axis. With CM3, you're not limited to being satisfied with just whatever spring you install. You can add a reduced preload to taste, which is a major advantage and something that you cannot do on WarBRD. The included cams can be identified with a series of bumps and holes. Avia cams have a progressive curve, requiring more force the further you get into deflection. This is that familiar torque profile that a flight sim pilot might expect. 1 bump, 2 bump, 3 bump are your hard center, soft center, and no center. Center is that slight feedback that you get when crossing from one side to the other, like when you are going from positive X to negative X. This little bump can help to hold the stick dead center without any extra dead zone. If it's calibrated properly, you will still always achieve dead center return without adding a big dead zone, regardless of your choice in cams. Cosmo cams have a flat profile and are designed to have the same force throughout the range. You can deflect from center throughout the range and feel a flat, consistent force. They also have a soft center and no center option. This flat profile was offered based on community feedback in 2018 as the space sim scene gained a lot more traction. All of this is up to personal preference. I'm sure that there are jet sim pilots who prefer the feel of Cosmo cams, and I myself have flip-flopped back and forth over the years as developers have messed with the Star Citizen flight model. Between 2.4 and 2.6, I used no center Cosmo, but between 3.0 and 3.14, I was using a soft center Avia, and now for 3.17 and on, I'm now liking the feel of a soft center Cosmo. The point is, you should take the time to test and adjust. We will discuss the new big feature, and that is one drag clutch per axis, and that can be a game changer for some. The drag clutch offers more than just another aspect of tuning. You might be totally happy with your current tune, but may want to adjust just a little bit of drift, to which you can apply a very slight bit of drag to control it. You may want to stop stick lash oscillation when you release the grip. When flying in Star Citizen, I still use the keyboard for some features, and I'm able to release the grip with CM3 and expect it to center dampened without any oscillation. With that little bit of extra drag, it returns dampened to neutral when I release the stick quickly. There is an even more important reason for friction, and that is to achieve what is called a dead stick. A dead stick has no spring and no cam. A dead stick will go to and remain exactly where you move it. It'll stay there until it's moved elsewhere. This might sound crazy, and some would think, why would I want this? But with the recent surge for helicopter sim and helicopter sim gear, a dead stick is exactly what we need. And that's not only needed for the gimbal, but many pedals are also offering a damper or friction. The Torque Ace, for example, is very well suited to replicate helicopter pedals, as they also incorporate a friction clutch. A helicopter cyclic won't return to center when released, so now, for the first time, I'm able to achieve a proper dead cyclic with CM3. When testing for Real Pilot Fake Helicopter, Chris actually mentioned how faithful my sim setup was to what you would get from a real helicopter. The pedals, cyclic and collective, have no spring or cam. The CM3 got his seal of approval, and that obviously made me very happy knowing that my sim experience was as good as it could be. The drag clutch is operated for each axis through a small hole on the top. Each hole is labeled with what direction is used to add or reduce friction. Below the two rubber caps are the screws that are used to adjust the spring tension, and updated for CM3, these are now an Allen head. You can more easily adjust using a ball end of an Allen wrench, and when you're done, replace the cover and keep things dust-free. I'm going to end out with some common observations. Internally, I've seen how Virpil has evolved its design and construction. In the very early days, there may have been a little bit of hot glue and zap straps holding things together. Lately though, I've become excited to open their newest products. They've really taken the time and worked to ensure no compromises in design or construction. Internally, everything is milled billet aluminum. Anything that's supposed to move does so on sealed bearings. Bolts are caged, locked, or have been completely replaced by C-clips. The circuitry is anchored to the chassis and on quick disconnect wiring for easy services. The cam is seated within the cam arm, with the screws only being there to keep the cam in place, leaving the full applied load on the arm. Everything is built to last a lifetime without breaking or wearing out, and I even noticed this time there was a lack of break-in period, unlike the original MT50. Remember to install the software, update the firmware, attach the grip, update the profile, and then perform calibration. Every time you change a cam, you need to perform calibration. Value is always a function of cost against how often you use the part. Expensive things can still have great value if you consider how long and how often they're going to be used. Buy the right gear once and you can enjoy it. Thank you very much for choosing to spend your time with me. Some very good news, Virpil has expanded its warehouse to include the United States to reduce shipping cost and time. The CM3 should be seen as much more than a small update, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it eventually replace CM2 on the web store. It can do everything that CM2 can do, and it's actually a great successor. If you have CM2 and are happy, there's absolutely no reason to upgrade from CM2 just because this is newer. If you don't feel the drag clutch is going to change your life, then what you have is already what you need. And if you're on a budget, right now might be the best time to check eBay, as people are going to sell their gear to upgrade. Don't be shy, comment your comments in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts and answer your questions. Join us in the noobifier Discord if you want to have a really detailed discussion. Fly safe.